Auschwitz did not just fall from the sky. Auschwitz crept up, tiptoed along with small steps, moved closer and closer until the things that happened here began.
Gotta be more uniform. No,
It's hard to believe, but this is our 12th year at Classrooms Without Borders. And every time, as hard as it gets, I get excited again when I see all of you.
We believe in experiential learning. You know, you can talk anything, but when you walk the walk and you touch it and you feel it and you smell it, it makes such a difference in teaching. And I've seen teachers change so much.
So we start. Thank you.
Which time is it for you here with the Classroom Without Borders?
I don't count.
But a lot.
Oh, between 15 and 20 times, yeah.
Did anybody watch the movie The Zookeeper?
So we began our journey in Warsaw, and this was quite deliberate to understand what Jewish life was before the war.
The Warsaw Zoo. It's important to the story of the Holocaust because the Zabinskis as a couple, the husband and wife, he and his wife saved hundreds of Jews through the property itself. They removed animals from cages and hid Jews in their basement.
I mean, people do come here, especially because of some of the famous people. So here you have, I mentioned him already several times, Marek Edelman, famous fighters in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, heartbreaking and heart-wrenching. This piece that's folded, where it looks like folded cloth, a shawl, and then with the lichen and the moss growing on top of it. It just feels like a continuity of life. So it just, I don't know, there's beauty, there's hope.
We're in the ghetto now. I don't know if you've spoken about the Warsaw Ghetto, but this was in the ghetto, and they were allowed to pray here, which was very unique.
It was lovely to see on our way out a baby being brought here for a ceremony. You know, it's kind of a living proof that they did not succeed. The Nazis did not succeed.
Okay, so first thing, just go. And actually, when you look at this big map, we're actually standing over here. It's this section over here. You see a wall here, but it's not that the whole ghetto was walled. You had structures, and they connected existing structures to pre-existing structures. So I want to say something that's very important. We have a problem of 2020 hindsight. Okay, we know Nazis invade, they ghettoize, they create extermination camps, they kill. It appears as though there's a set plan. It's very systematic. They know exactly what they're doing. And the Germans, of course, are so orderly. This is the exact opposite of the truth. The Nazis know what they want to do as an end game. What they do not have is a clearly articulated program or plan. What they're going to do is they're going to try different things, and when things work well, they run in that direction.
I just want them to know that I'm here, and I'm not forgetting them, not one. I'm here, and I remember them.
There's no camp to see here. When the Nazis completely finished murdering their target audience for this camp, they dismantled it in an attempt to wipe out the evidence. We are all as if we're drugged. Yesterday all of my family were living, and now all are dead. Each of us stands as if turned to stone. I weep for my fate, for what I have lived to see. At that moment, I hear to the left of the barracks the miserable survivors standing and saying the evening prayers. And after praying, they recite Kaddish, that's the mourner's prayer, for the dead with tears in their eyes. Yes, we are all lost.
You can't help but to think just the tragic, despair, hopelessness. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And, I think this is something that involves personal self-reflection.
It happened in a very similar day than today, exactly on the 27th day of October 1942, where special forces came to our ghetto, surrounded the Jewish area. 4,000 or 4,500 Jewish people were led down to a train, taken away, never to be seen or heard of again. My mother, my older sister, and my younger brother were amongst those people who wound up here, and they knew they were murdered on arrival. I was a boy of about 13 years of age then, and by some miracle they missed me. They didn't include me amongst the workers. But I managed to smuggle myself in and missed the train. Otherwise, I too would have been here at that particular time. We have to remember that. We have to remember what happened, and we have to remember not the numbers, but each and every individual. It is very hard for me to come here. What else can you do? It is expected of those who lose people to come and visit in the cemeteries and the graves, if there is such a thing. These are not graves, these are only symbolic stones here. That's the best we can do under the circumstances. I hope you learn something from it and carry your lives in such a way as nobody else is below you, nobody else is better than you, and there is room for everybody else, if we so will. Yiskadal veiskadal shemay haba, vayom mud beruche sei vayamlich malchusei bechayechon v'yomechon v'chay d'chol beis Yisrael, v'agola was mankuri v'yimru amen.
Is the prayer that is sung.
I can see when I close my eyes, their souls are hovering above us in thankfulness that we came here to remember and not forget them. Thank you for coming.
So we have rocks from our community that just anybody who wanted to collect, to place on a stone, and they don't have a specific village on them.
That it was traditional for Jews to place commemorative stones. We wanted a way to involve the community. We thought that this was just such an incredible privilege. I feel honored. Just honored and ready to send messages to my students to be able to do that for them.
so important to see it firsthand and think of each of the 900,000 Jews who died here. You got to notice that in my hometown, 2 days ago, somebody burned a pride flag. And these things, these small acts, this starts with those small acts. And so we all have to be vigilant.
It looks like a Holocaust movie, what you would picture in your mind that a concentration camp would be. But then when you walk into the shower room, in the gas chamber, that is just really difficult to bear. There's no way to comfort yourself because of just how horrific it is, and you're staring straight at it.
The heat we're feeling, like they're not weather protected, right? So it's going to be extremely cold, extremely hot. There's no air ventilation.
There's no real heating, there's no sanitation, there's no sewage system, there's no running water. I mean, these lives were cheap.
You know, you can read history books, but until you actually walk these sites, do you feel the emotion and the heaviness and the weight of such horrible atrocities?
To be in a room where so much blood was spilled, and then to read that the field next to it was called the Rose Garden. It's just demoralizing.
The thing that got me the most was my own reaction to being an engineer, to use that skill to create this. And it's just devastating.
So I like to invite anyone who would like to share with us, either reading what you write or talking.
I was talking with the people I was with, and it was like, you don't even want to take a picture of this because it feels like you're exploiting something. But how do you document something so that other people who can't be here know about it? My students, how do I make sure they know this without experiencing this? Where is the line between exploitation and accountability? Like, how do you go through this and respect it?
The three best things that I can, or four things that I can really describe, it's anger, sorrow, bitterness, and the deniers of the Holocaust. How do you deny that? I mean, Howard articulated it last night. It's amazing to me. You can deny that. I mean, you look at it, it's right there. What would the world look like if there were 6 million more souls of all different walks of life? What difference would they have made to mankind? And we'll never know.
I'll probably lose my job for the things that I'm going to say. What I see is how similar it is to where I live right now in Florida. We have slowly had our rights stripped away from us. As teachers, we can't even give kids a book without the fear that if a parent doesn't like it, we will get a felony charge. So then I come here and I see this. And it terrifies me. Because all those people didn't think it could happen to them either.
I didn't want to share this, but y'all, I have never met y'all, I don't even know your names, but I came out to my family as gay when I was 35. And I've always been ashamed of who I am. And even, I don't like telling people today. But with the laws that are going to be passed against transgender people and minorities, just like the Jewish, it was a small minority of the community, that if we don't stand up, that these things will happen again. And I don't know you, but I appreciate you saying that.
I do teach the Holocaust, and I feel like this trip is, I still haven't processed today yet, but I know it's giving me my purpose again, as why I do what I do.
I can see it just like it was yesterday. If you can imagine, there were 2 rows of barbed wire. You had to cut both sides and try to escape. Some people made it, they escaped. Some people got shot, they were dead. But the worst thing was the people who were wounded, and they wouldn't let anybody help them. I can still hear the moans. They were begging to be finished off or to help them. This is our family house. Oh, wow. I still call it home. This was part of the ghetto. Luckily, our house was in the ghetto, so we didn't have to be moved somewhere else.
We wonder.
In one day, they obliterated the whole town of Jews. If you look around here, this was all Jewish except maybe 3 or 4 houses. We all made a good living. Jews were not allowed to work in the Starchowice factories. Why? 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 Why?
Starachowice, Wywierzbnik, Szenergu, Szeniszchatu, Szenisrefu.
And I even wonder how his parents explained to him when he was younger what was going on. Because he said he knew something was up, but how do you explain that to your children? We need to pack up, we need to go. But then what do you do then after? Because he said he was a child when he first saw the hangings here. How do you explain that to a child?
Not too long before we arrived, a mass grave where Jews were murdered was found on the outskirts of the town. And it was found because they were building a major highway there. They stopped the construction and they moved the road so it would not run over this mass grave.
How many of you have ever met someone who's changed the course of a highway? He has.
Here it's extremely difficult to find any witnesses who would show us where the graves are. In my first visit here, I could really find bones, pieces of bones, just on the ground here. We know also that from the book about this camp that there were about 20-30 people killed a day.
Only reason we could do this is because we all remained open-hearted. And we were able to pursue a common goal, and this trauma doesn't have to continue. We have the ability to leave our hearts open, to work together to make this a place of healing and commemoration instead of a continued open wound. Say shalom v'rumah, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
I don't think I truly grasped the scale, but also the just sort of added layers of brutality until I was on site itself. I'm thinking about these individuals, thousands and thousands and thousands of them as individuals and not as numbers. And I think that just, it makes a considerable difference.
Still go upstairs. Okay.
When we arrived, we got off the train, a lot of people were dead already. Many people died on the way, suffocated because we were so packed up. We had no food, there was no water. And those who were able to stand, we were admitted. We were housed like sardines in these bunks, no mattresses of any kind. Between two people, I think we got one blanket, so there was always fights going on, one sleeping here, one sleeping there. And we got used to working here. If somebody escaped, the appel people had to stand until they found. And most of the time, the people were found and they were brought in, they were swollen. The dogs would tear them apart and they had placards hanging saying, this is what happens if somebody tries to escape. And we could see what was happening. Mengele, who was the chief medical officer here, he would sometimes come to the barrack, line us up, undressed, have a stick across from one bunk to the other, and to see if you measure up. He would look at you. I was lucky. I was not looking too bad, but my face was peeling. So I used to use the piece of margarine when I got it to put it on, make me look good. But he did it 3 times to me. And never my number was called. And came January, I think, or late December, we were assembled and marched out of Auschwitz. The whole prisoner population was marched out. There were columns and columns of people marching in the winter time. The snow on the road was trodden down, it wasn't too deep. But on both sides, the snow was up to here. That's 100 miles. We marched in the snow. And sometimes we stopped in barns and we slept together with the horses, and you had to be very careful the horse shouldn't step on you. So lots of people were shot on the march. At the end of the march, when we reached Breslau, they put us on an open train, a coal train, no roof, and off we went.
And you're going there with Howard, who tells the story. And it's very difficult for people. And it makes you realize just how low human beings can go.
We asked the parents to write letters to their students so that when we're after this whole week, while they're in this place of pure hell and death, that they have something they can really connect back to their parents and speak to their parents through these letters.
It's like I've seen, I've done the virtual tours and the movies and the readings. And I've read more Holocaust books than I can count, but it doesn't do this justice. It's weird to see it in person. When you see it, even though you know everything that happened, it becomes all the more real.
And I think that especially when you grow up Jewish and you hear about it all the time, you start to almost desensitize. So some people come here and don't react at all. And I was worried it was gonna be me. And I was gonna feel like I did it wrong. But I don't have to feel like that.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamoitzi lechem min haaretz. I hope you learn something from it and carry your lives in such a way as nobody else is below you, nobody else is better than you, and there is room for everybody else, if we so will.